Years old, and you have to understand, my dad's a taxi driver. We don't make a lot of money. My mom's a housewife, so we don't come from a very well-to-do family. Eating McDonald's is a luxury. I gotta eat McDonald's 4 times a year. My birthday, my sister's birthday, my mom's birthday, my dad's birthday. So it's like the best meal ever. It's really, truly a happy meal. And most of my clothes are hand-me-downs, which is okay when you're 10 years old because you don't really care. But have you ever realized that the minute you turn 13, you start to care a lot about what people think about you? All of a sudden, I realized that I was poor. And I started to care about looking good. And you have to understand, my cousins were well-to-do. So they were always wearing branded clothes like Armani, Burberry. Have you heard of those brands? If you do, you're probably from my generation. So I remember 2 days before Chinese New Year, my mom surprised me with a Burberry shirt. You recognize that brand? So apparently, she actually secretly worked 2 jobs to get me this shirt because she knew how badly I wanted to wear something branded so that I don't look bad in front of my cousins. And I was, of course, very excited, could not sleep. And the following day, at my grandma's place, I was wearing this Burberry shirt and I was the center of attraction by my cousins. And then my auntie came along and she saw me in this Burberry shirt and she yanked me to her to look at the price tag at the back, to check if it's real. And then she turned to my mom and she rolled her eye and she said, Mimiya, that's my mom's name, poor people will always be poor. Don't try to act rich. Let your poor son wear this branded shirt, now even this shirt also looks fake. She's the same she's the same auntie that later on would invite us to come to a housewarming because she's living in a 5-room flat. And obviously my dad and my mom have to work, and then this is the same auntie that would tell my mom, oh, you must come, because your whole life you probably will not ever stay in a 5-room flat. You need to see how a 5-room flat looks like. So that's the kind of childhood I grew up in. We get looked down a lot. And I remember that night, I was woken up by my mom's cry, and it was not the kind of usual cry, it was the kind of cry, but like, someone's like catching their breath, and it was traumatizing for me as a 13-year-old to hear your mom cry, because my mom is a very strong woman. I've never heard her cry before. But in that day, that evening, she cried and my whole world collapsed. And I remember hiding behind that door, I made a promise to myself. I told myself that I would never, ever let anyone look down on my mom or my dad ever again. And that's the reason why I started studying really hard. Because you have to understand, I was in the last class in secondary school. But because I really wanted to prove myself and prove my parents, I studied really hard and became the very first Feng family to graduate in a university. And this is my dad. You can't see him very well. It's his first time wearing a suit, and I was so proud. And back to the classroom. This was the reason why I wanted to be a professional speaker, because I want to share my story, I want to inspire people, I want to make good money, right? But it was so tough. And that was when I remembered my promise. I do not want to make my parents, looked down on by my relatives. And that's why I worked really, really hard. So I didn't quit. And then a year later, I had my very first breakthrough. What was the breakthrough? I was hired by a company called Sanofi Aventis. Someone introduced me to the general manager, Bernard Dragon, and then he liked me enough, invited me to speak for his sales force. My very first time speaking to so many people. They liked it, and they invited me to do a 1-year project with them. And you have to understand, back then my training fees was $800 a day, which to me I think is already a lot of money. But this project, we were paid $5,000 a day. That was like, 6 times or 5 times more. And immediately, I was that year, I was able to retire my dad, and I even took my family for a nice holiday in Batam, in Indonesia. And this moment, I capture it because I want to always remember my why. Now I'm telling you this story for a very good reason, because there's a certain group of you here today, you too are an aspiring speaker. You want to start this journey. Or maybe you're already a speaker for 1 or 2 years, but you're facing a lot of challenges that people do not know about, because you have to look good, but people don't know those challenges. And I want to remind you something that I remind myself when I was younger, which is obstacles are there not to stop you, they are there to test you on how badly you really want those things. As long as you can remember your why, you will be able to persevere. You just got to get through the first few difficult years. And if this is not enough, I want to introduce you my favorite singer, Lady Gaga. Raise your hand if you're a fan of Lady Gaga. Awesome! Do you remember there's a song that she sang called A Million Reasons? I've got 100 million reasons to walk away. Then, but baby, I just need one good one to stay. You just need one good reason to stay. This line of work, anything worth doing is always going to be tough. You might have 101 reasons why you think you may fail, but all you need is to find that one good reason to keep going, and I promise you, it will get better. Just tell yourself, it's a test. It's not to stop you. So could you help me pat the person beside you? Look them in the eye and smile and say, it's a test. It's not there to stop you. So what's my first lesson? Remember to dare to dream to be a speaker for some of you. And for the rest of us, remember to dream big. What do I mean by dreaming big? It means being the top speaker in your niche, going global, maybe getting your CSP, or maybe even serving APSS and maybe be the president, right? It doesn't matter what that dream is. I truly believe that any dream that you have in your head, you're meant to fulfill it. Otherwise, you would not even dream it. Just remember that. Now I want to move on to the next lesson, because a year later, I found APSS. And I met the most amazing speakers. And I want to show you who they are. So I've met Ron Kaufman, I've met Frederick Karen, I've met David Lin, I think who is in this room, I've met Shirley Taylor, Heather Hansen, I'm so sorry I didn't know you were here, and I met Jerome Joseph, and I actually met Christian Chua as well. Where's Christian? Now, fun fact, Christian was actually the one that brought me to APSS, which I actually never really said that before, but he was the one that brought me in. And I tell you, seeing all these amazing speakers gave me major imposter syndrome. I don't know if you feel that way, because I was trying to model after every one of them, and I ended up losing myself in the process. My customers got very confused about my positioning, because I was trying to be everyone. My audience did not really have a very good impression, because I was just like every other speaker. And as competition started intensifying, I started losing businesses. I started not getting selected for engagements, and I got really, really anxious. And then, I remember there was one evening I confided in my best friend, Jessica, and I said to her like, hey, you know what, I don't know if I'm gonna do well. And I said, can you take a look at my speeches? Since you know me so well, give me some feedback. So she looked at all my recent speeches, and she said this to me. She said, Eric, you are trying too hard to be like every other speaker. Why can't you be yourself? And then I told her, well, if I'm myself, then people are probably not going to like me. And then she said, Eric, your job is not to get everybody to like you. You're not chocolate. And she gave me the most liberating 5 words. And I like all of you take note of these 5 words. Whenever you feel doubtful of yourself, just remember these 5 words. We say it together, okay? Go where you are celebrated. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Go where? Exactly. So she said that to me. She said, Eric, go where you're celebrated. Because if you don't even have the courage to be yourself, then how would you know and how would you attract customers that really truly appreciate you for who you are? I think she should have been here in this convention. She will make a good speaker, or maybe a good therapist. So I took small steps, very, very small steps. The very first action I took to be more of myself was I stopped talking about every topic that I think my client wants to hear, that I think is very popular. I only spoke on one topic, a topic that I'm very passionate about, which was charisma. And I started noticing a difference, because the minute you speak on something that you really feel like is your calling, you speak with a lot of energy and passion. Then the second one was, when I'm on stage, I stopped being nice. I used to be very nice on stage. I would say things that was very safe. No one would ever take offense. But because of that, I don't leave an impression. So after that, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to say my thing. You know, just going to speak my truth and tell them what they need to hear. Isn't that our job as a speaker? And I did that. And somehow, I think Singaporeans love listening to speakers tell them the truth, you know, and they actually warm up to it. It felt like I was kicking their ass, and it's what they need to hear. And I gained their respect. The third thing I did was I stopped quoting every other speaker. I stopped sharing every other buddy's strategies, stories. Everything was original. I started sharing my framework, my strategies, my stories, my IP, everything me. And then people start quoting me, and it felt so good. And then the most important change was I started dressing the part. Instead of wearing black and grey, which is like the norm, I decided to wear my favorite color, which was pink and light blue. And then speakers and my clients actually started to remember me as, oh, you're the guy that is always in pink. So that kind of worked for the brand. But the point is this, I started getting the courage to be more of myself on stage. And you know that my second breakthrough came when I went from please like me to this is me. In 2019, I was invited to speak at the largest sales convention here in Asia. There were 16,000 people in this room. I'll show you. It's really, really exciting. Thank you so much, guys. I got a standing ovation. It was considered one of the highlights of my career. And then the same year, I was awarded the CSP, which is Certified Speaking Professional. It's given to the top 12% in the speaking industry. And I got to receive the award from the very same speakers that first gave me imposter syndrome. And it was like a full circle for me. And this is my favorite picture. Ron and Jen, who can't be here with us today, but they were very, very important to me during those periods of my time. Because they were the one that encouraged me to step out and be my own kind of beautiful. Just be courageous, just be yourself. So this is my advice for the rest of you as well. Especially if you feel like you are plateauing in your speaking career, or you feel like you're losing joy on stage. Like you've been doing this for a while, you feel like this is a job more than a calling. If that's you, this lesson is for you. You got to start finding the courage inside you to be more of yourself. What do I mean by that? In other words, bring more of your personality on stage. Bring more of your style on stage. Bring more of your stories and your experiences on stage. Make sure that whatever that you share is not Googleable. Make sure it's not by anybody else, but it's original, it is you. And your job is not to make everybody like you. You can't, because like I said, you're not chocolate, right? You're not wrong coffee. You need to just be yourself, speak your truth, share your story, and the right audience that resonates with your message will gravitate towards you. These are the people that you're meant to serve. These are the people that you're meant to inspire. If you don't speak that truth, how on earth you can attract your tribe? So I encourage you guys to dare to bring more of yourself on stage. So could you now help me pat another person beside you, look them in the eye and say, dare to be yourself. Dare to be yourself. Another person. Now there was a process. There was a process that I took to be more myself. I read this book by Rich Schefren from Strategic Profits, and there was a set of questions that I answered to help me find my sweet spot, my unique advantage. So there's a set of questions to help you understand your passion, a set of questions that help you understand your strengths and your experiences. And I don't want this to be a teaching session, but if you want to rediscover yourself, I highly recommend you to do this. I've created a ChatGPT prompt as well to help you analyze your answers so that you can find your topic. The topic that you're meant to speak on. Okay, so you just scan the QR code and then you could download it. Now, while you're on your phone, I'd love to keep in touch with you. I'm very active on Instagram. Share with me, your biggest takeaways from Instagram. Let's connect. I'm also active on LinkedIn, so we can connect there as well. My last story is going to be the hardest story to share because I've never really shared this story in public, but I'll share that with you because it's related to all of you. So this, by far, I think, is the biggest, most epic mistake that I've made in my 16-year career as a speaker. And it all started innocently enough. It started with just a question, which is, how can I scale my business? Do you ask that kind of question too? Like, how do you grow your business, right? How do I be able to influence more people, make more money without killing myself, because we have limited time. We only have 24 hours. So there was a particular year where I started asking that question because I really want to grow. And then I met this guy, Alan Koo, which is very, very popular in Singapore. He's a speaker, he's a trainer, he's a coach, and he has a very successful business as well. So I remember meeting him one day at a networking event, and I asked him, I said, actually, how do you scale your business? And he said to me, oh, you got to build a company, and you got to hire a CEO to help you run everything. You're a speaker, you speak. You hire someone to do the rest for you. So I took his advice, and I found myself a CEO that I thought was really good at running business. He asked for $30,000 a month. I gave him $20,000. And then he created a business plan to scale the business. And that business plan required us to hire 15 people. And my overheads was 100,000 Sing dollars every month. Just saying that very stressful already, right? $100,000 every month. No wonder every time I see my employee faces, I don't feel happy. Because I felt like all my money is gone. And no matter how many speeches and training I do, I can never seem to catch up with the expense. And I just hope that the business plan will work. And eventually when we realized that, oh, we need more money, we started borrowing money from the bank. And obviously the bank will be happy to lend you money, so they started lending us a lot of money. And then, a year later, I realized that the business plan is not going to work. Money's not coming in, customers not coming in, but we still have to pay our employees, we have to make salary, we have to pay our trainers, we have to do so much things. And the entire business collapsed. We had a major cash flow issue, and at the worst of our business, we owed the banks and our trainers and our vendors $1,000,000 Sing. Have you ever owned $1,000,000 Sing? I did. Not a very nice experience. And I remembered that every day there will be people, they say, I just got traumatized by this. You know why? Because every day I will receive calls like this. And I'll receive calls from people who will ask me for money. Like, hey, nice people, but they turn bad, not because of them, but because of me, because I stopped paying, and people need money. And so they called and they start saying names, they threaten, they send hate words, and I dare not pick up the phone after a while. In fact, till now, like when I hear this, I'm like, oh my God, traumatized, right? Because I was worried that I cannot make the money. And then, COVID, by the way, I want to highlight something to clarify. The mistake that I made was not wanting to scale the business. It is normal, it is, in fact, acceptable to want to scale your business if you want to scale your influence. The mistake is also not that I want to build a business and hire a CEO. Nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with borrowing money from the bank, because there's such a thing called good debt, if you know what you're doing. So that was not the mistake I made. The mistake I made upon reflection was that I assumed that the only way that I can scale my business is to build a business, hire a CEO, and hire a bunch of people. Because that's the best practice. That's what everybody talks about. And I thought that, oh, maybe I should do that too. And it's so dangerous, whenever you come for conferences and everybody tells you that's what they do, and you think, oh, I also want to do this, I want to do that. So that was what I did. And I forgot that I suck in corporate. I had less than 2 years of experience in corporate. I'm not good with managing people. I can manage an audience, but I'm bad with people. Do you know one of my jobs was to manage trainers? And I was so bad at it, because part of my job was to QC all our trainers' slides and work. I had this trainer coming in the meeting room, and I told him up front that your slides are not good, it's ugly, and whatever. And then he ran out of the classroom crying. And this is the same trainer that speaks on happiness, I was so bad at it. And then because you build your business, you need investors. Investors will every month scrutinize your P&L. They don't care the impact and positivity you bring, they don't care. They just look at numbers. And they'll go, why are you spending so much money here? Why are you paying this trainer so much? Why are you doing that? So all they're doing is just cutting our costs, and always at the expense of our customers and the people that we work with. And it absolutely go against my value. But I can't do anything because we are so stuck and so entrenched in this business. So that was my life for a while. And then COVID, oh, by the way, I got pictures. This is me before scaling the business. This is me after scaling the business. So you might want to think about scaling your business by building a business. And then COVID hit. It turns out to be a blessing in disguise, because no one can come to my house. And I hid in my room, I painted the wall, and I had time to think. And it was the only time I started asking myself an honest question. And that is, actually, Eric, what kind of business do you really want? Not what kind of business everybody say you should be building, but what kind of business you really want? And you know what's the answer? The answer hit me on the head. I don't even want a business. I just want a life. And you know what a life means? I wrote it down. I want happiness. I want to spend time with my family. I have a very cute corgi. I want to spend all my time with him. This is life. I want this. And that was when I realized I got the entire order wrong. You see, the question I asked was how much money I want to make. That's the wrong question to ask, because there's never enough. You'll keep wanting more and more and more. It's a business. But instead, I should have asked this question, which is what kind of life I want, and then build a business that allow me to have that kind of life. You guys getting it? So ask yourself what kind of life you want first. Who do you want to hang out with? What kind of lifestyle you want? then find a business model that allows you to have that kind of life. And it will turn out that you will have your own unique business model. And it takes courage to even ask the question, what kind of life you want? So, I wrote down in a notebook, like, what do I want? So I wrote down, I don't want any employees if possible. And I don't want office because it's very expensive here in Singapore. I want multiple streams of income because I don't want to be over-reliant on one modality, which is speaking, because it's very risky to do that. I want to work wherever I want because I realize I love traveling, I love meeting people, and I want to choose who to work with. During the time when we were scaling the business, I had to work with every client, and not every client is nice, or at least good for me. But I have to work because I need the money to pay the employees. But now I want to choose who I get to work with. And most importantly, I still want to do my dream. I still want to impact millions, but not at the expense of my health, not at the expense of my time, not at the expense of my life. And then, I decided I don't want to build a business, I want to build a brand. It's more like me, it's more in my brand, more aligned to me. So I started building my following on Facebook. This is not Facebook, this is Instagram. I built a following on Facebook, I built a following on TikTok, and once I finished building the brand, I built a backend. What is a backend? A backend is a series of offers that you offer to the people that have heard you speak. They've already known you, like you, respect you. Now they want to do more work with you. You create offers for them. So that model works for me because when you have a backend, it's like having an employee that will never complain that you work too hard. And it's powered by social media. So I remember that year during COVID, I started building a community called KLR365. I learned it from China, where members pay $1 a day to me so that I can share with them new insights to social media. I had a course, which is an online course, at $997. I did not want to do any more training because I was very bored in having to say the same thing again and again. And by the way, it takes courage to even say that I'm bored with training because sometimes you're supposed to love training. I don't know, some people feel that we need to say that. But actually it's very boring to keep saying the same thing over and over. So I didn't want to do training, but I don't mind recording the training into a video series so that I could impact people without having to use my time. So I created an online course, and I love coaching. I love that one-to-one relationship, but I want to work with the best. And so in order to work with the best, you're going to charge a high fee, otherwise you will attract the wannabes. So we charged $30,000 for a full year of coaching, and we attracted some people to us for coaching. And I wanted to do consulting work because I want to be rewarded not for my time, but for the results I create for the client. So we had about $62,000 worth of consulting deal, and this is the combination that year. I had 485 that went for the community, 1,000 plus, 50 and 2, and the entire backend helped me make an extra 3.6 million Sing dollars without using my time and my energy. Most of it is automated. And as a result of this, a year later, I was able to pay off the entire $1 million in a year, and I was so much happier and so much in my element. I had more time to, you can tell, it's a lot happier, right? And I got to spend more time with my dog, my corgi Titan who has grown up, and this is him yesterday. He's my alarm clock every single morning. So what's the lesson? The last lesson of the day, or at least this morning, is that you got to dare to do the business your way. Like what Frank Sinatra says, there is no perfect business model. Just because a business model worked for that person, it may not necessarily work for your way. So I invite you to rethink about your business and ask yourself, what kind of business do you really truly want to build? And make sure that you build one that is aligned to your strengths, that's aligned to your values, that's aligned to the life that you want to have. And for some of you, it may be like me, building a following and then monetizing your following using a backend. Or it could be really building a company because you love people. Not that I don't love people, okay, but you love developing people and managing people. Or you are a creator, you create lots and lots of product and you license it away, which is basically Ron's model. Or Frederick Karen, he only speaks, that's it, for 3 months. And then the rest of the year, he spends time in the island writing books. How nice. That might be some of you. Or some of you, you don't need to speak anymore. You are already making enough money for yourself. Now it's time for you to step up, use your star power, use your platform, use your voice to speak up for a humanitarian cause that you believe in. Maybe that's your next step. Not a business, but a calling. So I invite all of you to take a hard look this weekend and ask yourself this question, because it's been a long 16-year journey. Do you think better looking? Of course, because of Photoshop. But I really invite you to learn this lesson with me. The last 16 years, if there's one thing that I realize is this: anything worth doing takes courage. And I invite you to dare to dream big. I invite you to dare to be yourself and bring more of yourself on stage. And I invite you to dare to ask the difficult question: what is the life that you really, really want? What kind of legacy do you really, really want? Then build that unique business that's only for you and you only. So thank you so much for allowing me to share this journey with you. There are a lot more speakers ahead that will challenge you to dare to dream big. But I tell you this, if you dare to do those three things, I promise you this, you will most definitely step from shadows to spotlight. Enjoy the rest of the convention. Thank you very much.